Welcome back, everybody. It's Jack here, and we have to talk about something. Yes, the dreaded topic of the snowpack on the PCT this year in 2023. Today, I want to make it extremely simple. I'm not here to fearmonger. I just want to talk about what is happening right now, talk about the potential risks that you will be taking as a PCT hiker this year, because it's quite evident at this point there will be additional risk. And then lastly, what I'm going to do personally to mitigate that risk and just stay smart and safe on trail. Currently, the Sierras are getting absolutely pummeled by record-breaking snowfall. It's the most snowfall since really the 1982-83 season. It's already shut down 183 miles of southern trail, and by this graph here, you can see it's on pace to be very similar to the year of fire and ice, which was 2017, which was a very, very crazy snowpack year. If you're hiking the PCT this year, you're probably thinking, how am I going to do this? It sounds hopeless. You probably see a lot of things on Facebook, social media, which I really don't have, so I don't really know what's going on there. But I'm assuming that there's people that might be doomsdaying a little bit. So here's a good statistic that helped me kind of grasp what's going on with the situation. February 10th in 2017, there was about 180% above the average snowpack for that year. Currently, our past February 10th, there was 196% more snowpack than average. Now, I know that's quite a difference of 16%, but we're really sitting in kind of the same realm of just like, oh shit, snowpack. What might tend to be a little bit different this year is how far south the snow has actually reached. This doesn't really bug me as much because I feel like this was an anomaly and it's not going to continue to happen. That really means that once the weather starts to warm up and everything starts to melt, that snow is going to be irrelevant. Granted, it's not to be ignored or downplayed, but I don't think it's going to have as much of a significant role as people think. So another thing to kind of look on the bright side is that peak snowpack is expected to happen around April 1st. I lived in the Bay Area for about 4 years, and let me tell you, the snowpack in Tahoe was always, in the Sierras in general, was always extremely unpredictable. For example, in 2021 in December, Tahoe was getting record-breaking snow, and everyone thought that the year of 2022 for a PCT trek was going to be absolutely miserable. But January and February ended up being some of the driest months of the winter, so it was actually probably a below average snowpack year. Now, this data was taken from mid-February, but even if it stopped snowing on that date in mid-February, we would still be sitting at about 140% above the average snowpack. So the moral of the story of all of this, in conclusion, is that yes, there will be more snowpack than there is normally, even if it stopped snowing mid-February, which it snowed more since then. Peak snowpack April 1st would still be sitting at around 140% more than average. So that is undoubtedly going to be a fact. However, don't let it discourage you if you're hiking the PCT this year, because while there are going to be more risks that we should talk about, we'll also talk about how to mitigate some of those risks. I'm not going to sit here and spread a bunch of fear and talk about all the risks. I think everyone who's hiking the PCT has a fair amount of experience and doesn't need to be lectured by me, but I just want to go over a few of the obvious risks that people will be taking by hiking the PCT this year. I think it really breaks down to three things. One is unpredictability. I think when there's a crazy year like this in the mountains, the weather can be unpredictable all the time, but you just tend to see crazier things when you've had a strange year like this. So hypothermia and being stuck and not knowing a bailout plan can get you in a really bad situation really fast. Definitely make sure that you have the appropriate gear, and this is not the place to skimp on gear for weight. Secondly, this is very obvious, but river crossing. So if you do decide to get to the Sierras when most of this snow is melted, clearly the rivers are going to be flowing much faster and much more ferociously. So knowing a plan on how you want to river cross, or maybe having someone with you, and maybe looking for different crossings, even if you have to go a mile or two out of your way, is probably going to be a good rule of thumb here. And then lastly, I think one of the bigger risks can be planning. I think that it's going to be harder to plan when you don't know how you're going to be moving in this type of snow. If the snowfields are very, very long and vast, and we are post-holing for miles and miles on end, you can definitely count on your miles going down. If you thought you were going to do 15, maybe assume you're going to do 10. It's just going to be very unpredictable in that sense that your plans might not stay true. So just stay flexible in that sense that you might not be getting to point A or B as fast as you thought you were. All right, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. You all have probably seen this online. Those are just the main risks I'm thinking about when it comes to above average snowpack in the Sierras. What am I going to do to try and mitigate these risks? Number one thing I'm doing is I'm carrying and making sure my Garmin inReach is charged at all times. Lately, I've been hearing some really sad stories about backpackers that are extremely rare, but they've gotten in situations where if they had a two-way communication device with location tracking, they could have survived. So if you're hiking the PCT and you think that getting some sort of GPS is too expensive, I promise you, if you get in a situation where you need one, you would never regret that purchase ever. And if I don't have to use it the entire time, I'm perfectly fine with that too. I'm not gonna let this just lull me into a sense of false security and go charging into the trail because, you know, I have a GPS tracker and I'll be fine and I can just call for help. I'm still gonna look through the situation and understand, you know, what the potential risks are, but I think that this one's huge for the worst case scenario. Secondly, I really plan and hope to be going with people when I head into the Sierras. I'm assuming Flying Turkey is gonna probably be with me at that point and want to trek on with me, but even if it's just waiting for a group and all of us wanna go together, I would really much rather be with people than be alone. And this is just because no matter how much experience I think I have or someone else has, when I'm by myself, I feel like I'd be more prone to make hastier decisions and just do things because I got to get from here to here and I'm losing time and I got to keep hustling and going. That's how I think when I'm alone, and I'm not exactly as cautious or as aware of what I should be doing. I feel like if I was with a group, people might say, hey man, that's not a good idea. Or even I might say, you know, this looks kind of sketchy. Maybe we should bail out here. It just gives, you know, safety in numbers. You have a group, you have groupthink. More people are coming up with different ideas and different perspectives. Third, I am definitely not skimping on gear. Of course, this also seems very obvious, but I'm definitely gonna have micro spikes, an ice axe, warm clothes, things where if it did turn south, I'm not too worried about, you know, surviving in the Sierras. This is not a section where I'm gonna worry about my weight or how many miles I can get in a day. I just wanna go through the Sierras this year safe. And really lastly, I think I'm always going to have multiple people, being 2 or 3, know of my plan. I'm going to be texting my girlfriend or even sending her inReach preset messages of, this is my date and time that I plan to get to X. And with other people, like maybe my little brother and my parents, I might tell them, hey, I'm leaving for this stretch and I'm gonna be going for 70 miles. I expect it to be this many days. If you do not hear from me in X amount of days, call someone. Like, don't even question it. I would rather my loved ones call in help and me call them and be like, I was fine the whole time, than be in a situation where I need their help and they don't know where I am. And I'm not coming from a place on a high horse of, I always follow these rules and this is stuff that I'm always thinking about. I think that just this year, like everyone else, I was a little bit uneasy hearing that there was this much snow going on in the Sierras. As someone who's wanted to hike the PCT for 6 years now, it was a little bit discouraging to not totally understand the situation, and just a lot of my friends keep pinging me newsletters and articles about how the Sierras were impassable this year. But I think when I looked down and actually saw the data and kind of observed the facts and really just understood, okay, yes, this is what's going on, but it's still manageable, that made me feel like most of this was, you know, blown out of proportion a little bit. Now, I won't go into this underestimating anything. I will treat it to the maximum level of safety and risk analysis, but I do think that it's going to be really hard to tell what's going on until a lot of the PCT hikers get to Kennedy Meadows and some of the first people who go in kind of report on the situation of what's going on. And I think it's going to be something that everyone just has to take day by day. That's really it for this one. I hope if you were worried about the snowpack like I was, that this helped ease your mind a little bit. I don't think it's something that you should really stress about because it's completely out of your control. And really, like I've said in my last videos, I don't expect everything to go well on a thru hike. It just doesn't happen. Whether it's fires like last year that shut down the northern terminus or extra snowpack in the Sierras, you really can't account for everything, and you will experience inconvenience on your walk from Mexico to Canada. There's just simply too much ground to cover and too many variables. So stay positive, pray that it stops snowing with me, and maybe we can somehow sway the Tahoe gods into stopping this madness and we can all pass through the Sierra safely. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.